is Renting a Warehouse Space 101. I'm Eric Sexton, and I've been a broker in town for about 20 years here in Las Vegas, and I wanted to walk through what it looks like when you rent a warehouse space as a tenant for the first time. So let's say you own a construction company and you are growing and you just are coming out of like maybe working in your garage. It's time to hire somebody and rent a space. Here's a couple things that the process will entail and questions you should ask. So let's say you find a building that you might want to rent and you have a real estate agent that is representing you to the owner. They're going to ask things like your financial situation, how long you've been in business, what kind of business you have, what you're going to be doing in the unit. And you are going to get asked these questions typically before you tour the building. And the reason these questions are going to get asked is because they want to make sure they are not wasting their time or your time. So they want to know what you're doing and if you can afford the building, so they're going to ask your budget. And the reason this question gets asked by an owner or an owner's representative is they want to make sure that your business fits into the building per zoning. So let's say you have a construction company and you're making cabinets and you want to go into a retail building. Well, you're not going to be able to be a cabinet shop in a retail building, so they want to make sure that zoning fits in. And also they're going to ask your budget. That's a nice way of saying, hey, do you have money to pay for this building? So if you get asked these questions, it's really good to be open with the person asking you these questions because it will save you quite a bit of time. So the next step is you're going to go tour that building, whether you have an agent or not. I always recommend having a tenant agent that can help you through the process. When you walk the building, take a look at things like, does it have fenced yard? Does the power suffice for your use? Can you stack? How high can you stack? Like how much office space you're going to have? Like really envision operating your business in that building, where your office would be, where your receptionist would be if you have one, how much parking you need. So really get detailed into it and maybe go look more than once. So you're going to get asked questions, you're going to tour the building, then they're going to hand you a lease application, which you might have already gotten before you tour the building. Once you get that lease application, a good application will ask you questions like maybe a credit check if your company's new. They're going to want bank statements. It could be anywhere from 3 months to a year, profit and loss statements, balance sheet if you have one. Also, the big one is taxes for 2 years. If you have business credit, they're going to want to run that. Now, don't let this stuff scare you. It is not that scary of a process. They just want to make sure that you can afford that unit because they really want your business to succeed, because if your business is succeeding, that means you're paying rent. So once you go through that process, you're also going to hand in a letter of intent, which is a standard practice in commercial real estate with that lease application. And this is where the agent comes in. This is a non-binding agreement that will outline the terms of the lease. So it'll be things like how long the lease is, what you're going to be paying or what you're offering to pay, how much free rent, is there a tenant improvement allowance? It outlines the terms of the lease without getting into a thick lease agreement that has all the things in there. So get the letter of intent and draft it as a form of an offer so that you're saying, hey, Mr. Landlord or Mrs. Landlord, this is my financial situation. I'm offering you this to rent the unit. Maybe you ask for 2 months of free rent and a little bit of a discount on the lease rate. You'll send it to them. They will review everything and they'll either accept it or come back with a counteroffer. Or unfortunately, if you don't have good financials, they'll just say no, or the use doesn't fly for that particular space. And from there, if your offer gets accepted or you agree to a counter, they're going to draft a lease. And this is where it gets really important. You need to know everything about that lease. Smaller units, owners usually use a template form. There's one, it's called an AIR, which is the Association of Industrial Realtors. It's just a fill in the blank. It's actually a pretty friendly format. I'm a fan of that. But really get into the nitty gritty of the lease because you want to learn things like what happens if your air conditioning unit breaks? Who pays for that? What does it look like if your toilet explodes? There's really things in there that could cost you money throughout the lease. So once you get a lease to look at, you might want to hire a real estate attorney or go over it with your agent. Do not take legal advice from your real estate agent. That's not our job. So understand what you're signing because it is a long-term partnership. So once you sign that lease, whether it's 1 year or 5 years, you are going to be partners with that owner. So you want to make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into because they really are your partner in a way. You're running your business there and that's your livelihood. So once you get into the unit, they're going to ask you things. Once you sign that lease, they're going to want a specific kind of insurance and you're going to have to pay before you move into the unit. So it's kind of a first and last situation. They're going to want a security deposit that will be agreed upon what your use is and the financial strength. Then you're also going to give them the proper insurance along with the lease. And then at whatever point They're going to give you keys. Sometimes they need to do some tenant improvements, which you can negotiate in if you need those. And once you get into the unit, you are off to the races. So do not be scared before you tour a unit to answer a bunch of questions. It really is just streamlining the process. Make sure to get a good idea of your letter of intent, the terms you're offering, and then when they counter, to really understand the economics of your lease, then really comb through the lease and rent a unit. And then I hope your business explodes from there and you grow big time and buy or rent a bigger space down the road. That's kind of renting a space in a nutshell 101. I just threw a ton of information at you, and I'm going to be breaking up these videos into clips by subject. So click subscribe or follow me on Instagram, where you can learn more about the process of leasing. And we're going to be covering other topics as far into commercial real estate with common questions and common topics.